CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy. This series on social movements in Africa was shot at the margins of the third Baraza in Accra. The Baraza is a product of the Zimbabwe Alliance, a project that the Conversations on African Philanthropy covered at the end of 2024. Social movements play huge roles in our society. At the same time, they face massive challenges and obstacles. In this series, we take a look at the different manifestations and typologies of social movements on the continent. The series is but a snapshot. More is needed to fully get a comprehensive grasp of social movements. Join us as we talk to actors from the DRC to Zambia, Malawi, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ghana, and many more.
Welcome to another exciting episode of our Conversations on African Philanthropy with me, Moyo. This afternoon we are shooting at the margins of the Social Movements Baraza here in Accra, Ghana, in collaboration with TrustAfrica. I'm excited this afternoon to be joined by Zakithi and Sibanze, who is the coordinator of the Women's Rural Assembly in Swaziland, Eswatini as we now call it. Welcome to the Conversations.
Thank you so much. We still call it Swaziland.
We still call it Swaziland? Okay.
Because of how it was changed politically, it wasn't coming from the people. But funny enough, it was called Eswatini even before.
Yeah.
But it's just that the way it was changed.
So legally now, what is the correct name?
In paper, it's Swaziland.
Okay, but
Yes.
among the politicians, it's Eswatini.
Among the monarchy, it's Eswatini.
Okay.
But there is a court case that was left by the human rights lawyer that was assassinated, Thulani Maseko,
Yeah.
where he challenged the name change.
Okay. Maybe we can actually start with what you have just mentioned, the assassination of Thulani Maseko. He attended the last Baraza in Johannesburg as part of the social movements from Swaziland. Maybe we can start by talking a bit about the political context as well as the economic context that is currently pertaining in Swaziland. From your perspective as the Rural Women's Assembly, what is your characterization and analysis of the climate right now in Swaziland?
In terms of the mass democratic movement, it is kind of fragmented now. After the assassination of the human rights lawyer, we became very disorganized, I would say, mainly because Thulani acted a role in uniting all the forces, because there are different political formations that are there, and but also the regime after the June 2021 massacre started targeting individual activists and arrested them, mainly the young people, the youth. They target one by one because they saw that we are a united force. So, but also the strengthening of oppressing both civil society organizations and political parties. You cannot march in Swaziland. There are several marches that have been stopped. There was, I think a month ago, there were students from SOS high school. They were marching against violence. They were stopped. There was another march which was organized by, it wasn't a march, it was a meeting by the People's United Democratic Front, which was also stopped. So the situation is very bad in clamping down both civil society and political parties.
So given that context, what would you say is the state of civil society and obviously by inference social movements at the moment? Are they weak? Are they strong? Are they mobilized? What, from your perspective, what do you see as the state of civil society and social movements?
We are currently fragmented, as I've already mentioned.
Yeah.
But I don't think civil society is fragmented per se, but we are in fear. Everyone went to his or her or their corners to hide because we were afraid of being arrested, of being killed. So we currently, you can point only to a few social movements to say that that movement is working, but also the laws that the country is trying to bring about in clamping down civil society, copying from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
The bill, there is currently a bill on NGOs, which they really want to clamp down civil society. So we are in a state where we are weak. You can point a few to say, Rural Women's Assembly is still there, and maybe because they are being strategic in terms of talking about seat politics, which is not that alarming to the monarchy, but the reality of it is that we are weak. We need to reorganize and remobilize to bring back the movement.
And representing the Rural Women's Assembly, you have deep roots in communities, especially among women. Would you say your connection with communities is another way in which you can regroup and reorganize? Maybe we can use the opportunity now to talk about the Rural Women's Assembly in Swaziland, what it does, why it was formed, and some of the achievements and even challenges that you have come across so far. I think you said it was established in 2011, so that makes it more than 12 years now in existence. So there's lots of experiences, reflections that you can share.
Yes, definitely mobilizing from the grassroots up is the best, because you talk the language of the people, because change comes from the people themselves. So we didn't want to talk for the people, because that we saw it doesn't work. We were formed in 2011, where we mobilized because we saw that mostly rural women are still lagging behind in terms of awareness, and also in political representation. Mostly women in Swaziland. In the past election, we still had 5 out of 59 constituencies of women who were voted into parliament. Then the others were appointed by the king, who still holds all the powers. So Rural Women's Assembly have a pool of organizers in Swaziland. We use them as our foot soldiers in the communities to mobilize other women in the community, and we have seen some gains in that. We mobilized against gender-based violence with them. We mobilized for land access, which is our core pillars, because when we talk of food sovereignty as the Rural Women's Assembly, we need the land, so that we do the farming in the land. We joined the Rural Women's Assembly Southern Africa because we are also part of the Rural Women's Assembly Southern Africa. So South Africa is having a campaign on 1 woman, 1 hectare. So we also joined that campaign to say 1 woman, 1 hectare, but also 1 seed bank for that particular household. We also mobilize women on economic empowerment, because when we were doing political education in the communities, they say, no, we get it, we have rights, these are our rights as per the constitution. Unfortunately, we had to use the legal instruments that are there in the country, even though they give and take the side, but we use it. And then the woman said, we understand our rights now, but we cannot eat our right. So we needed to add the pillar of economic empowerment, where women do income generation projects from recycling and the farming itself, but also some handwork like making polyester so that they are economically empowered and are able to challenge the status quo, and even families who are violating themselves, because when you do not have the resources, it is very difficult to challenge violations against yourself.
So, and what would you say are some of the critical challenges that you are facing? One is the Rural Women's Assembly, but secondly as a social movement. In these 2 days, what I've been hearing is that social movements face so many challenges. Some of them have to do with the political space, others have to do with funding, some have to do with just how to mobilize members and keep them active, some have to do with regional solidarity and how you create capacity to do all of those things. In your case, what would be some of the key challenges that you are currently experiencing?
I think because we are in Africa, they are almost the same in terms of funding, especially women and grassroots. it is even worse.
Yeah.
Because it's women and grassroots, and we know we are living in societies where people doesn't view women's struggles as important than taking power.
Yeah.
So mostly people in Swaziland are eager for power than the strugglers. When you say, these are women's strugglers, Thomas Sankara said it goes together. They said, hey, let's grab power from the king first, then we'll see your struggles later. But also it is servicing the members so that they stay within the assembly. Maybe before, when we started, we had the resources to go in all these communities, but with time you need to revive the members and service the members so that they still remain. But also there are external factors like your surveillance. When you are challenging the status quo, you are seen as an enemy of power, and then women leaders are always surveilled. Sometimes we even take it normal, but some of us, sometimes we need to keep on shifting because even the society at times they view you as the unruly woman because there are expectation in cultures that they want to see you as that humble woman. Whenever you challenge, you are seen unruly, so you are then being removed or isolated from the society if you start challenging things for your own progress as women.
Yeah, you mentioned the resourcing question, income generation activities that you do. One of the biggest conversations and themes in this baraza is the resourcing of social movements. Can you share how you have managed to keep yourselves in business? How are you resourced?
It is very difficult because we are membership based. We collect membership from women. It is a very small amount because we also understand that our constituency, that it's rural women who are vulnerable themselves. They do not have that much resources, but most funds we rely on getting from international donors, but also we've been there and there in terms of we are being assisted by the regional rural women's assembly in getting funds because there are these expectation from organization. You need to have this, you need to have this, but if you are a grassroots organization, you find that you do not have the capacity to do this. And our leadership is solely the rural women themselves. Capacity of writing funding proposal is so limited, so we rely on the regional rural women's assembly in terms of assisting us to do the applications. And
you said earlier on that this is your first time attending the baraza. What do spaces like this mean for organizations and movements like yourselves? I mean, I'm asking this because you also said earlier that at times, as a social movement operating in Swaziland, you feel very isolated and removed. And here you are in the space where there's so many social movements from across the continent. What do such platforms mean for you?
Such platforms means solidarity for me. I was very much surprised when Thulani died. The Kenyan movement stood up, and everyone is not only Kenya. So this space for me is to strengthen our own solidarity within Africa. But also myself, I was arrested during the protests in Swaziland, and when you see other comrades from outside Swaziland putting up your case and saying justice for you, it is the same way that I feel that we need to really strengthen the solidarity, and we should move away from the rhetorics of solidarity and hold each other's hands, stand with our sisters and brothers in the region, in Africa.
Thank you so much for that. And finally, I always ask this question, so because it's you who can best articulate it. So who is Zakitthi?
Zakitthi is a feminist activist. I was given birth by a mine worker who lived in South Africa almost his entire life. I think that is where I developed activism, because I'll notice he will take some Times of Swaziland, it is our local newspaper. When there was a 1995 in Swaziland, which was a mass protest by mine workers, teachers, unions, which they had some demands. Amongst them was free education, which was then attained in Swaziland. We got free primary. So I developed following that activism from my father and raised by only my mother, because my father always stayed outside. So activism to me didn't just be luxury, it wasn't a choice. So I lived the things. It was only my mom. I didn't understand where is my father. My father would go like 2 months, 3 months away from home, but also the way women are treated in society, even today, the issue of land struggles are deadly, and those who are targeted are widows, and my mother is a widow currently. So we just live in situations which wants us to keep on struggling always. So that is me. But I studied at the University of Swaziland, surely. I did community development, but also I'm doing communications now, because I feel like I need to a variety of things to do, so that I also enhance the struggles of women. But also I like writing. Interestingly, I like writing on women's issues. I post it online because there is very limited things on women in Swaziland. So I really write to inform people about the feminist movement in Swaziland.
So what's the blog? Is it a blog? Is it a website where you post your?
It is just online. If you Google whatever I've wrote, because sometimes I get different people to post it, because I don't have the capacity myself to. So
So what we'll do maybe is, when we edit, we'll look for some of your articles and embed them in the video, so that when people listen to this episode, they are also able to click on some of your articles and read them. But thank you so much, Zakitthi, for joining us. I know that you have to prepare now to go visit some of the cultural sites here in Accra, so that we can also appreciate history and where we are going. But I really enjoyed the conversation about the kind of work that you are doing. And I think that all of us here at the Baraza, TrustAfrica included, CAPSI and many others, would actually want to wish you and many other social movements to do better and do very well going forward. I think the global configurations of things right now require us to reimagine the way we do things, and I think social movements are at the forefront of actually showing us the way forward. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, comrade.
Thank you so much. So that was Zakithi Sibanze from the Rural Women's Assembly in Swaziland, joining us here at the margins of the Baraza. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.